Nick, as of this recording, we are less than 18 hours from hopping a flight to go to a convention.
That's true. There's lots of things about conventions that we love, and we're going to talk about them today.
That's right, we are about to be convention bound, and we've been to many conventions, including Board Game Geek Convention, which is one of the very best of them all.
Yeah, if you're playing games alone, yeah.
Oh my gosh, forget about it. So we have a lot of things that we really enjoy about the convention experience, travel and all that. So we're going to talk about 10 reasons why we really enjoy traveling to conventions.
Our number 10 is kind of a simple one, and this is collecting badges. We have, okay, there's a weird little story here. So we have a gentleman named Roger. He is a plaster, like cement plaster bust of a dude that we found in an alley. It's like from here up, a bust of this dude that we found in an alley here in LA. And so we kept it, of course, we took it. And he just kind of like creeps up at the top of our studio over here, and he just like looks down at everyone and just judges everybody. And so he is where we put all of our badges for our con, so he's just got like a bunch of badges on him. And I really enjoy collecting badges. There's a lot of times where like I'll open up one of my carry-on luggage or something like that, and I'll find a badge in there that I forgot to put on Rogers. I'm like, oh man, it's so cool. It's such a little thing, but think of it like, I know a lot of people collect like concert tickets or collect like concert badges or like wristbands at concerts, and that's like a big deal to a lot of people. And badges are the same way, and I think collecting badges is really cool because they always have different like kind of art on them, even if you go to the same con year after year. It's just cool. I don't know, there's something about collecting badges that I find very satisfying, and it's just fun to have Roger wear them while he just stares and judges everybody in our studio. I don't know, so collecting badges number 10, it's a very simple little one, but it kind of goes in that same concert vibe. You're going to this place, you want a memory, and a badge is a great way to do that. So collecting badges is number 10.
So number 9 on our list of why conventions are great is because there's a lot of games I've like always wanted to try and don't know how to play. And every game that I could want to try is someone's like favorite game. They're like, oh my gosh, that's my favorite. Do you need a teacher? I can teach this to you in 5 minutes because of course I know it backward and forward. It's my favorite game, and it makes it so awesome to be able to play these games with people who are so passionate about the game. It's really cool. I think it goes a long way to creating really positive experiences that leave a lasting impression. It's a great chance to get to know people and their gaming preferences. You know, what other games do you like and stuff? It really does come down to the people often, these conventions, and why they're so great. And so I just love the fact that if you ever just plop down on a table and put like teacher wanted, you're going to be just fine. Someone's going to come right around and say like, I will play this with you right now. I will always play this game. And that is really exciting. So don't be afraid to just grab a game you don't know, because someone does, and they are going to play it with you. And that's awesome.
Number 8 kind of makes sense, but this is playing what we would call convention games. We've done entire lists here on Board Game Geek of convention games, and the best part about conventions, one of them at least, is that you get to play these big crazy games. And this could be something like, say, Downforce for us is one of our favorite racing games, but I want to play Downforce. At this point, I actually pretty much refuse to play Downforce unless I'm playing it at 6 players. I want the full contingent of 6. The game is just significantly better at that player count. And so that's what I want to play the game at. And it's great to play at conventions because you can always get 6 people to play Downforce at a convention. But on top of that, there's also like giant mega games with like 50 different people. Or you're like, look, I want to play a full game of Twilight Imperium, and I want to spend an entire day at the con playing a 12-hour game, 8-player game, or however big it is, of Twilight Imperium. You can do that at a convention. So specifically playing big games at conventions is pretty darn easy to get done, and I think it's a big reason why a lot of people go to game playing conventions, because it's the one time a year that they get to play TI4 at the full player count, or it's the one time a year they get to do this big crazy mega game at Gen Con or something like that, or even something small like, hey, we get to play Downforce a couple times a year at conventions because we can get the full 6-player contingent, and it's so much more fun. So playing specifically big games at conventions is a big part of it for us.
kind of along the lines of what I was saying the last time you saw me, I like that at a lot of conventions and booths and stuff, or in the hot games area or whatever they might have, you can kind of fully demo a game. If you want to play the whole thing, or you want to really dig in and get a sense of how a game plays before you go buy it, there's oftentimes a lot of opportunity to do that. It's really, really great. Of course, you're usually with the publisher or someone who knows the game very well, so they can really help you get down to it so that you can see, like, is this game for me? Like, how do I feel about this? What's going on with the mechanisms? You don't have to do so much like blind buying and hope that you enjoy it. Most of the time, publishers and stuff are really keen to have you make a really informed purchase, which is really fantastic. Something I really appreciate, the fact that you can ask all sorts of questions, try all sorts of stuff, see every little bit, look at the cards, play the game, and then decide whether or not you want it. And there's never hard feelings if you're kind of over it and what have you. So that ability to do those kind of full demos is just hard to find elsewhere in the wild. So conventions really do a good job of providing that for people.
Number 6 makes sense, and this is wandering the booths. Wandering the booths at a con. Now, again, you have a very small con, you might not have booths, but even small cons usually have some kind of like publisher presence, or maybe a couple local people selling like cool leather stuff, you know, or whatever, dice sellers. There's always at least one dice seller, right? And I love wandering the booths. When you're at like a Gen Con or an Essen, that's a big part. That's pretty much all you do, right? You're wandering around, looking at booths. There's hundreds of booths, so many games to look at. But even small local cons, you know, or like BGG Con will have like 15, 20 booths, and it's like, it's just great. I love talking to booth workers. I love wandering around, seeing what they have, even if it's games I've already know about. It's just fun to look at games in that setting and to talk to people in that setting. I think is really, really cool. Especially one thing about with big cons particularly, which is nice, is there's so many different kinds of booths. There's obviously many board game booths that are selling board games. You know, they're selling their latest board game, and some, like the Asmodee booth, which takes up like a third of the hall at Gen Con. It's like, yeah, there's tons and tons of stuff to look at, but there's also like so many like booksellers of people selling like fantasy and like sci-fi novels. There's also, again, like I said, a lot of people who are making like cool leather stuff, like leather gauntlets and like cool hats, and like people selling like really cool dresses and stuff like that. There's a bunch of steampunk stuff, but there's almost always like a big art section as well, and people selling a whole bunch of different kind of art. And there's some of the coolest art I've ever seen has been in a convention. And so I just love wandering the halls, particularly if it's a really diverse hall in terms of diversity, in terms of the different kinds of booths that are there. But again, big booth, small booth. At our local con, Strategic Con, they have a little you know, publisher booth area, and it's great. There's a couple game stores that show up and bring a whole bunch of games. Again, there's always a dice seller, someone selling some leather stuff, and I just love it. It's one of my favorite parts of going there. It's just walking around this little area. I just think it's great. And so wandering the booths is an obvious one, but it's our number 6 because it's great.
One thing I love about cons is the opportunity to see some of your favorite content creators and stuff, myself included. I like to see and meet people, see people's shows. There's a lot of people who do like live podcasts and stuff. I think it's really cool that there's so much kind of programming at a lot of conventions. At the last BGG Con, we saw like Grant did like a comedy show. And I'm like, I know Grant, I know he does comedy. I've never had a chance to see him do comedy. I might be able to see him do that and talk about board game stuff in particular. Yeah, that's gonna be like right up my alley. I'm down for that. So I love that there's all these opportunities to see people perform, because we have a lot of really talented content creators, people who are funny, informative, interesting, and you get to see them live and be in on a moment. And that's just something that's really, really special and cool that conventions provide. All sorts of conventions, big and small, will usually have some amount of shows or panels. If you're trying to get in on design and stuff, there's gonna be a lot of informational panels and things to learn. How do I get into this? Where do I begin? There's a lot to be gleaned from the various programmings at conventions, and that's something that I think we never make enough use of, but I'm always grateful when we do make some use of it.
Okay, so now this one is specific to the convention, because some conventions are really, really good for this, and some conventions are not great at all for this. And this is eating the local cuisine. So this is kind of outside of the convention center, but it's part of the convention experience. There's a couple places like Origins is right next to, oh gosh, what's it called? I can't remember, but it's kind of like the Reading Terminal Market, which is in Philadelphia. but it's a really, really great food. The North Market? I think it's the North Market. But nonetheless, it's a really, really great food place. Some places, some cons have really, really good food. BGG Con, which is in Dallas, has really good food nearby. That's awesome. Philadelphia, which is PAX Unplugged, has the Reading Terminal Market right across the street, which is this giant building, and it's all essentially one room, and there's just a bunch of food places, food places. You walk up, you order some food, a couple little sitting places, you sit down, and there is every kind of food you can think of there. There's just like every kind of cuisine, it's just everything is there. It's so good no matter what you want. There's a bunch of bakeries. There's also like tiny little grocery stores in there. So if you want to get like some fruit or something like that, you can shop there too. And it's just so good. There's desserts, there's like breakfast places, there's like dinner places. It's just everything. Everything is there, and it's so, so good. You go to the North Market, which is something very similar. This is in Columbus. Something very similar. It's not as big as the Reading Terminal Market, but a whole bunch of different kinds of food. And you just go up, order it, and you sit down and you eat it. And it's really, really great. And some cities like don't necessarily have things specific, like Gen Con. Indianapolis doesn't have like specific place like that, but there's a lot of decent food around, which is really, really nice. So despite food being outside the convention center, it's still a really big part, especially at specific conventions. Food is great.
One of my favorite things to do when we travel to conventions is explore the surrounding city. Like, for the most part, when I went to BGG I had never been to Dallas before and actually spent time. And at the fall, the location of the convention, you can walk over into like a little bit of a downtown area. There's a lot of restaurants and things like that. And we just kind of explored and got to see like, what's the vibe of the city like? I love Philadelphia, where PAX Unplugged happens, and you get to see like, oh, that's Benjamin Franklin's grave. And I'm like, that's crazy to me. Like, what? You know, living in California is a pretty new state overall. You're like, that seems like ancient history. So things like that are really exciting. And like, as soon as you exit the convention, you're in this like wonderful, unfamiliar land. And it's really cool to just get in and kind of see what the structures of the cities are like, and the style and the vibe and everything like that is kind of really cool, and something I never get tired of doing. Even as I go back to cities I've been to before now, I just kind of explore further and further out and try to learn, and also have some of the familiarity of I know certain spots I like to go, and that's also really cool. So exploring those cities is a great thing that you get to do. Of course, we're there for the convention and what's in the convention center, but then what do you do later in the evening and stuff like that is just super fun to get out and just kind of hang with the locals.
Number 2 is a big one for us. I feel like a lot of people, and that is seeing convention family, will put it. There's actually a lot of people who we only get to see at conventions. A lot of people who we consider to be pretty good friends, whether that be people who watch our YouTube channel, or just that we've met at other conventions that we see there, or other content creators that we only ever get to see at conventions. There's a lot of people, even people that say live in LA, that we know. Just because we're all busy, we don't get a lot of time to hang out, but sometimes we're all at the same convention. So we always make the joke that we had to travel to Philadelphia to hang out with people who live like half an hour away from us. But seeing convention family and seeing those friends you only ever see at a convention is a really, really big deal. It's something that's very cherished, and something that's very important to us is getting to see the same familiar faces year after year. We get to see them once or twice throughout the year at a convention, and it's kind of everything, honestly. It's just wonderful. There's a lot of people, especially during COVID, where really everything moved online. You made a lot of kind of online friends. Getting to see those friends occasionally is really awesome, and it's nice that we have something where we know we're going to get to see those people, because if you have long distance friends, you don't always know when you're going to get to see them, but at conventions we pretty much always do know that we're going to be able to see Aldi at Board Game Geek, at least at BGG Con, or another con at the very, very least, and it's like, that's great. It's amazing, and it's something that I feel like we kind of overlook a lot, but seeing our convention family or convention friends and stuff is a really, really big deal to us.
Now, what can I say? What could possibly be higher than this as our number 1? You get to play all the games. That is something that is really fun. At a BGG Con in particular, this last time we went, we were just hanging out. We had one mission, and that was sit down, Play games, one after the other, after the other, after the other. Stop and get some food, stretch your legs, then play another game and another game, and it never ends. You get to get in these like crazy game marathons where you've already played a bunch of stuff with different people, and then it's like 11:30 and someone's like, here's Brass Birmingham, and you're like, ugh, okay, let's do it. And it's so fun to do that because there's just not many opportunities. We're all busy out there in the world. I got a new daughter and everything like that. There's not many opportunities to just indulge yourself in games in a great, really fun way. And it's something I think we all owe ourselves a little bit more in life, is to indulge in the things that make us happy. So getting to play all those games, the game marathons that happen, the big epic games, it all kind of boils down to getting around the table with people, which is the best part of it all, and just play some games. It's so, so cool. It's just, you're just eating it all up, and I love it so much. That is our number one, getting to play all the games.
So that's 10 reasons why we love traveling to conventions. And the good thing about conventions is there's so many good things about really small conventions.
Yeah.
There's so many good things about really, really humongous conventions, and kind of everywhere in between. So no matter what you want to look for in a convention or something like that, there's a convention out there for you, because again, they go from a couple hundred people to tens of thousands of people.
Almost every place has like a local con. So we talk about,
close
for
enough,
our work, we do travel a lot, but if you don't want to travel or can't travel, there's often a lot of stuff that's pretty close to home, big and small. And honestly, they are all great because they all include a bunch of people who have very similar interests to you, gathering to share time and space together. And that's a beautiful thing.
It's very, very cool. So those are our top 10 favorite things to do at cons, favorite things about cons. Let us know yours down in the comments below. And until next time, I'm Nick.
I'm Mike.
We're the Brothers Murph, and we'll see you later, everybody.
Bye.